Yeah, Double F's winning the split. Yeah, I'm calling it. Double F's winning
No,
the split.
that's more
That's
ridiculous than
more
to just win the
ridiculous than
split.
GGS.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Now, here's your hosts, the League Dad, Kevin, Mitchell, and Alistair.
What's up, gamers, and welcome to another episode of the All In Podcast. I am the League Dad, and as always, I'm joined by my friends and colleagues and co-hosts. We've got Kevin, Mitchell, and Alistair. So happy to see you guys again. Talk about League, talk about LCS, and we're getting near the end. It's about to be playoffs. We're heading into Super Week, and you know, some surprising twists and turns this past week, where we thought teams were kind of showing where they were going to end up, and yet we had some surprising upsets. I know Kevin might be a little happy because Team Liquid did end up getting a win over FlyQuest. But not just that, but FlyQuest in general looked a little shaky this week, which then kind of throws everything else for a loop. Cloud9 looking good, 100 Thieves getting a 2-0 weekend. So lots of stuff to jump in and talk about. But first, let me just get your thoughts on how this playoff picture is shaping up, what you thought of the games and all that good stuff.
I think the interesting part about the playoff pictures is that a lot of teams are just competing very closely at the playoff cutoff line. I'm glad that this is a top six, even though it hurts Team Liquid's chances. Like top 8 playoffs was just a lot less exciting. You just 8th and 7th, even though they actually did make noise last summer split, it's just not something you would expect and not something you get hyped over. So I'm glad that they continue to iterate. I am confused because we go from like top 6 to top 8 to top 6. I feel like too often, but top 6 feels better. So playoff picture is more interesting. Liquid's probably out, but that's they deserve it. So there we are.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely prefer the top 6. Top 8 feels like way too much of a cop out, and it just kind of feels like why even bother? I mean, we all know what two teams weren't going to make it from the start if it was top 8. So having the top 6 feels good, and I think the most interesting part is we actually might end up seeing the double if Bjergsen run back in playoffs.
Let's go, Boomers.
That would be hilarious. I'd be
That
very sad, but very
that would
entertained.
be so hilarious, especially because like I'm sure we'll talk about 100 Thieves a bit more in depth, but like the meta completely flipped on its head, and now Closer can just play Lee Sin Viego, and he's just smurfing every game, and it's like, well, what did any of that earlier stuff really matter, right? If they make it to playoffs, they're on like a 7-game losing streak or something ridiculous. It's just not going to matter if they get to playoffs. It's their meta, and they start driving, and they actually do something. Like the amount of times Doublelift has done this exact thing, where he looks like absolute garbage into playoffs, and then he just smurfs and wins the entire championship. So I think it would be really hype, and he would cement himself as like the clear NA GOAT. But for sure, it would kind of be like, well, has NA really progressed as a region at all? Because all of our new talent, all of our up and coming rookies, they just get outshined by, the usual Bjergsen and Doublelift. But it it's hard not to be hyped about the timeline, right? Because they did look so good this week. They looked so crazy. So what are you gonna do?
Yeah, I actually think we should start there because I am a boomer myself, and so I'm always rooting. I don't care how bad they are or how much I complain about Bjergsen not changing the style of play. Good for you, old man. You keep doing what you're doing. But actually, they did look really good, and I am happy for one because yes, I feel like yes, the meta shifted, but Closer in general, if they just unlock him, which we've kind of been saying that, like, please don't put him on Sejuani duty. Like, let him actually have a chance to make some impacts in the early game. And yeah, being able to pick Lee Sin or Viego, something to impact that early game, I think it's a great look for them. And they did do really well. In particular, the game, that I think really kind of gave me hope was them beating Golden Guardians. So Golden Guardians was on this uptrend, and they had been playing really well. But the fact that 100 Thieves was able to take a win from them, that gave me hope, and it's continuing to give me hope. So let's start there. 100 Thieves, your thoughts. Now, they do have a pretty easy schedule in Super Week. They're playing TSM, which, again, TSM is, to me, like, that could go either way. They're also playing Immortal, so they should win that, and then they're also playing EG. So I don't know. I think they can do it. I think they can definitely make the playoff run if they just win a couple of those games. But what are your thoughts on 100 Thieves?
My thoughts on 100 Thieves is I thought that Closer had a great weekend. Bjergsen played like noticeably better than he had been recently, so that's great. But I mean, one of their wins was against Dignitas, and
Yeah.
the other one was against a GGS that just got their knees broken by Liquid the week before, which probably isn't a great feeling either. I think that it's a good sign. I think Closer is the one that actually is looking like a star right now, actually over Doublelift, if anything. So if they continue to draft things that he loves to play and that he's really good at, then yeah, they will probably make it past the break point. That being said, though, I mean, I think it's very legitimately. I personally think that they will lose to TSM, and I think they will lose to is it EG.
Mhm.
So they might be in contention. If Liquid wasn't so inconsistent, they actually could be in trouble. But they probably won't be because Liquid's not consistent. And then once again, they're not gonna make a miracle run this year. The problem is there's not enough fire. Like Tenacity just can't. He if they put him on Gragas duty and he just plays whatever and he just like holds the lane, sure, fine. But like, is that enough to beat all the top teams? I sincerely doubt it. Because Liquor, noticeably, right? Why they have a good matchup against GGS is because Liquor is just there. And like, yeah, they also did better than River Gory, which is impressive, but it really hurts when you can't play through. Like, you just pick him Renekton and he's just like even-ish.
Yeah, and it was the same matchup too. Was Gragas versus Renekton in both games, and you're talking about Licorice and Armit. So
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Of course, he looks better that week.
I mean, I definitely think it's possible for 100 Thieves to make the playoffs. I mean, there's a 2 out of 3 chance because they're in a 3-way tie with CLG and TSM. I'd say they actually all have fairly similar schedules, and I think whoever TSM and 100 Thieves, whoever wins that guarantees playoffs. Because one of them plays, I think one plays Immortals and one plays Dig or something like that. Yeah, so TSM plays Dig and 100 Thieves plays Immortals. So whoever, as long as one of them goes 2-1, they'll make it unless an upset happens. And of course, CLG, I would say their schedule's a bit harder, but I would still probably have them going 1-2, maybe 2-1. But it'll definitely be interesting because we're going to get a tiebreaker no matter what, most likely. Not no matter what, but very likely we're getting a tiebreaker between 2 of these 3 teams.
yeah,
Yeah, tiebreaker is always hype. I mean, that's like some of the most exciting parts of the year are tiebreakers at the end of the regular season. We've had some of the craziest storylines happen. I think it was like just last year in spring, EG tiebreakered their way all the way from like a tie for 7th, not making it to playoffs, to being a 4th seed. So anything can happen in this last Super Week. Only 3 teams are locked. That's the top 3, FlyQuest, C9, and EG. So 100 Thieves, if they go 3-0, they could just be 4th seed and get a bye. Like, that's how crazy it could be. Or they could lose all their games and be 9th or 8th or
yeah.
something. Or 7th? 7th or 8th or something like that. And, like, make it really far down. So anything can happen in the Super Week. I do think that they'll make it. Not Golden Guardians. TSM is been a more consistent team throughout the year, but this last week, like all of their games were really messy and they didn't really have the highest quality wins. I think 100 Thieves, I mean, they also had lower quality like opponents, but their game plan was very, very clear. And it was so obvious that they like chose what to do in this meta and like just double down on it all early game, play around closer. They had set up in every lane for him, right? Zyra Khan in bot lane, Gragas top lane, and either Azir or Talia in the mid lane. So if they can stick with that game plan, then I think they'll win most of their games this week. But here's the thing: is like it's so easy to ban out, right?
Yeah, that's what I was going
Like
to
it's super easy to attack. See, that's the problem I have with predicting things in LCS. Some
hmm
things seem so easy and like obvious to us, to the fans. Just ban this out, but it doesn't actually ever happen. Like they
Yeah.
just let it go through, and then you'll just see. Are we gonna see 3 more Zyra Khans from Doublelift and Buzio this week because no one is banning it out? I don't know. I really don't know what LCS teams are gonna do against them. So I'm gonna say that I'm gonna favor 100 Thieves right now because it's just really hard for me to think that Closer can't carry this team if it's his meta. Because like when it's Closer's meta, I think he's the best jungler, like on carry jungler meta, like in the league. Like Blabber, Inspired, Spica, they're great junglers in that they're super adaptable and they can play both styles great. But like Closer can play one style. He can only do carry jungle, but he is the best at it in LCS at least. So if they just keep letting him do that, then I mean, there's no reason this guy can't carry 100 Thieves to playoffs at least, right? So I think that's where I'm leaning towards. But let's be real, guys. This LCS season has been like the hardest to predict in so long. Like we really have no idea.
Yeah. Yeah, I think if I'm the other team, my first three bans are going to be like Zeri, Zaya, and Lee Sin. Just like, and then maybe like Gragas later. Like it does kind of seem a little too easy to just ban out. If you just ban out closers champions, I mean that might be a big hit. And honestly, Double Lift looks good on really just Zeri and Zaya, at least from what I can remember. But
Yeah.
you know,
I'd
it
be
will
okay
be.
with putting him on Zeri. Their
Yeah,
bot lane has no impact for
yeah,
so long
yeah.
if you put him on Zeri, right?
Right.
So I'd be
He's
okay
just
with
had
that.
more pop off games on that champion. So it's
Yeah.
like there's a potential there. I do agree that it's still not like a high impact champ, but if you can
Yeah.
lock them out, then really where are they going to find a carry? Because it's really in those two. Bjergsen has been unreliable. He played good this past weekend, but we've been saying it like his style of play before that and his champion pool just doesn't seem to be the most optimal. Like
Yeah.
during this, so
The guy's
like I said,
playing Talia like 4 or 5 games
yeah.
of Talia this split, and he never goes to side lane with his ulti. He didn't do it once in the Dignitas game. He
Mhm.
never went to side lane with his ulti, and I was kind of baffled because closer and was ganking bot. They were getting double kills with Zyra Khan. I was like, this is the easiest camp the shit out of bot lane game. He just hung out mid, just hung out.
Yeah.
So it's hard world for Bjergsen, I guess. He doesn't know
Yeah.
what to do.
Well, I for one am excited to see what happens. I'm definitely interested because I do think I could be wrong, and maybe it's just because I'm biased, but I do think having the Boomers in the playoffs helps the LCS ratings just to have them in there because it is kind of like getting the veterans in there. Like you never count them out because as long as you make playoffs, like anything can happen, right? Like I know Impact is a different story because he's consistently good in the playoffs, but it's like, hey, that's a dark horse. It's a wild card, so to speak. Like
Yeah.
you never ever know because you got two vets even though they haven't been playing well, they're veterans, and then you have closer who can single-handedly carry a game. So I think it'll be interesting, and I hope, I hope they do well. I'd love to see them in the playoffs. But
100 Thieves is definitely like the scariest team to underestimate. They're not going to be like
yes,
the team that like you're scared to actually fight, but like you should really not underestimate them.
yeah,
Like they'll
for sure.
screw you over if you do. And if you treat them like a fair opponent and you try your best against them, most of the top of the league should beat
Yeah,
them. But like, yeah, don't let them have
that's
their
right.
stuff.
Don't drop your guard.
I'd argue Liquid is the scariest team to underestimate. They just randomly win and then get destroyed by an easier team later.
Sorry, I was assuming they weren't going to make playoffs.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Yeah, that's me too.
That's my bad.
Yeah.
Well, now you're already underestimating.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, it's true. We're already-
It's really, though. If they make playoffs, then they're also in the same boat. I think Team Liquid is very scary to underestimate. But I'm thinking like longer term, if 100
Yeah.
Thieves makes playoffs, TL doesn't. But
To be
I
fair,
mean-
Kevin, if 100 Thieves was playing Team Liquid this week, I would be scared.
yeah.
So
It'd be such a hype match. Too bad.
yeah. So, but you're right. I think I not to count out your guys there, Kevin, but I'm just assuming that TL's out and 100 Thieves is in. So, but point made. Let's go to C9. They were 2-0, and honestly, like to me, as of this point right now, they look like the best team in the league. They didn't have the easiest, matches this week. They had EG and Team Liquid, who again we just talked about. That's not a team you want to underestimate, even though they've been don't have the best record. But your thoughts on Cloud9? EMENES, to me, looking better and better. That team, I don't know. I think they'll end up first in the regular season. What are your thoughts?
Yeah. So when Liquid beat the #1 team, like I was like, oh, they figure out something cool, awesome. And then C9 showed that like they just have a better read right now. Like remember that even though C9's record was tied with FlyQuest going into this weekend, like this was Diplex C9 for most of the split, right? And they continue like we're gonna sound like a broken record, but we said it last week. Like it is a better look for them, and it continues to be obvious. And if you're just like you're just watching casually without like really paying attention, yeah, it doesn't look like EMENES is like a god. He's just good, right? But it truly matters how for your jungler, and that's all I'm gonna say. Like the jungle looks unlocked because their mid laner is better. They like don't get it twisted. Diplex was consistent and safe, but like that's not good. That doesn't mean you're good. That just means you can fit a role in certain teams. And this C9 wants to be better than that.
Yeah, I mean, they they play game 1 of Super Week, Cloud9 FlyQuest.
Yeah,
So realistically, whoever wins that's finishing first.
Good
probably.
point.
Yep.
True.
That's all I really have to say about it.
Yeah, Cloud9's looking pretty good with EMENES. I mean, Blabber's being unlocked. Like, he has that adaptive playstyle where he was doing pretty well on the supportive jungle stuff, but now it's a carry jungle stuff. He's also doing pretty well, and having a better mid laner works really well for them. I will say, the EG Cloud9 like direct matchup, Cloud9 won, but like I guess Jojo was sick,
He
right?
was.
He was
Yeah.
playing from home
Yeah.
and COVID. They had like 3 or 4 pauses or something, a bunch of delays. So like that game is like suspect to me. Whether I can arguably say that like EG is worse than Cloud9, best of one also. So also Tryndamere got 2 like crits on the Yone
Yeah.
at level 4. I was like,
Not that
all right.
unlikely though. It's like 35%, right? And you
It's
2
not
out of
that
4
unlikely,
crits.
but it is like lane winning. Like that just wins you the
Yeah.
lane. If you
Crits
don't
are
get it, he loses the lane. If Tryndamere gets it, he wins the lane. And that's just the nature of Tryndamere. I'm not saying like for in terms of balance or whatever, like
Yeah.
whatever, blah blah blah. That's just what happens. And I don't know. Jojo just looked really tilted after that. um, so yeah, I'm excited. I still think EG and C9 they're gonna look like the 2 better teams going into playoffs, and FlyQuest is gonna take a big dip down because we'll talk about it a little bit. But yeah, Cloud9 seems like they just have such a good read on the meta. Like they they are picking a bunch of wacky stuff. Tryndamere mid, right? They're still able to play Lucian Nami, but then they also can play like, the weird stuff with Annie and Thresh and Kalista support. So in terms of draft flexibility, I really favor Cloud9.
You flavor
Um,
them. I
You
get
like the
I
it.
flavor
flavor of
them.
Cloud9
I
FR?
like the flavor.
It's a good
And
flavor.
just a reminder, I did predict C9 to win the entire thing this spring, like
Mhm.
way back in our first podcast this year. So it's kind of cool to see them dip on Diplex and get EMENES and be like, oh shit, yeah, okay. That all planned, all according to
All
plan.
planned. How'd you know, man?
Yeah.
Did you just say dip on Diplex?
Yes, I did.
You.
Yes.
I love it. Oh, Mitchell, I'm so proud. That's
Thank
great.
you. Thanks,
Yeah.
Dad. Yep.
No, I agree. I think Cloud9 is just they just look solid overall. I mean, they were fine even with Diplex, but having Eminez in there is a huge upgrade, in my opinion. Like he might not be stand out in particular, but like you said, the jungle, like it unlocks a jungle, and Blabber is a jungler that can take that. He can take that opportunity and really snowball his team ahead. So I'm interested, and I do think I agree with your sentiment that Cloud9 is going to end up first here. But EG is a team that, like we were talking about Jojo. He was sick. I don't know how much he's recovered now because there's not much gap time. It's a super week this week, so he didn't even play their second game. Ryoma stepped in, and Ryoma did well. To be honest, they won that game against CLG, who can be a coin flip team. So you never know what CLG is gonna come up. But my concern is like, will Jojo be ready for the Super Week? So while I agree that I think EG consistently will look better than FlyQuest, that's my wild card is Jojo. Will he be well? Will he be well enough to perform? Because how have scrims been going, or how has he been able to practice during this off time since he's been sick? Because it must be pretty bad if he couldn't even play the second day. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah,
quarantining
sure.
is one thing, but the fact that you couldn't play, like that kind of has me a little worried. But let's dive just a little bit into EG, and then we'll hit up FlyQuest after that. But these are the top teams, so let's talk about EG. What are your thoughts on them? Do they? I don't even know the stats, but can they even end up second? I'm not sure. At this point, they're locked in, so I don't think it really matters. But what are your thoughts on EG?
So for EG, they're 10-5. Second place is 12-3. Unless second place goes like 1-2, I guess, or 0-3. Like there's just no realistic
No
world.
way, yeah.
I don't think EG is going to show much. I think EG knows that they don't have a bye, or not the bye. They're not going to be top 2, so they're like, what's the difference between being third or fourth? We'll just play like our autofill comms.
Mhm.
How I feel about EG is I actually think that they're a lot scarier when they get to playoffs. But for this week, no, they're not going to be that
Yeah.
scary. They will probably lose to either 100 Thieves or Liquid, one of the two, just like based off them not caring, not wanting to show their best strats, right? And they need more time for Jojo to get used to the new patch because he's been gone for a week. So I think they're not that scary this week, but I don't underestimate them. I mean, this org was 9-9 last time around. They looked way worse
Yeah.
last time
Yeah.
around. It just
Mm.
absolutely beat everyone. So I actually personally think that they should not be a threat this weekend.
I mean, when it comes to if JoJo's playing or how scrims are going to be going, I think the decision's already been made. I think they know who's going to be playing between Jojo and Ryoma. I don't think they're leaving it up to chance. I think if Jojo doesn't think he's going to be good, Ryoma's been playing all week. I think if Jojo thinks he's been playing all week. On the other hand, I bet you Jojo's missing his Canadian health insurance right now.
Mm-hmm.
So are you saying that they're probably already scrimming with who they plan to play?
I would expect so.
Gotcha.
Yes.
So if we see Ryoma, then you're saying that EG have prepared this past week with Ryoma. That makes
Yeah,
sense.
that's my
Yeah.
expectation.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah. I agree with Kevin's sentiment. This is kind of a wash week for them. Like your
Right.
mid laner, your star mid laner's sick. You're locked for playoffs. You're probably not getting top 2. Like just chill out, right? Like if Roma shows up and you go 1-2 and you end up 4th, like it's fine. If Jojo comes in and he plays sick, right? Like you probably wish you gave him a little bit more like time to rest, but I mean, hopefully you're not stressing too much about it. So unfortunately for the viewers, the EG games might be a bit of a wash, but the rest of them should be top tier enough that it doesn't matter if you have a sub mid laner, that you should be able to pull out the majority of wins this week, right? So that's what I'll say on EG. But yeah, I mean, when it comes to playoffs, right, they're going to be a real legitimate threat. COVID, I think, is what JoJo got. So 2 weeks is usually when people start feeling better after that. Depends. I don't know when he got his last vaccine or like how much water he's drinking. I don't know, but like he should be fine for playoffs is my guess. I hope, and then everything should be back to normal for playoffs.
It almost seems like the smart thing to do would just be to rest them. I mean, honestly,
probably.
like there's no so if they see Ryoma, I think that's probably a good call for them is to just let him rest, let him recover, concentrate on maybe he can practice some games with the new patches, get used to that, and then come back strong for playoffs.
There's also not a lot of incentive to like
Exactly,
just sit
yeah.
there and learn 13.4 when 13.5 is so massive anyways. Like who cares if you get really good at 13.4, right? So yeah.
Okay. Well, then let's move on to FlyQuest because this was the team that for a while was looking untouchable. I know for the past few weeks, Mitchell, I think maybe some of the other guys have been mentioning that there looks to be some weaknesses in there, and we saw some of that again. They did lose to Team Liquid. But what's the problem here? Does Winsome need to come back when they play Enchanters? Because Eyla again on Nami did not look so hot. So what are your thoughts on FlyQuest? What do they need to fix here? Because they're looking a lot different than they did in the first half of the split.
They don't need to fix much. I think they're gonna win the split not the regular season, but the finals.
Okay.
And it's because like legitimately the second they locked in like top 2, they just or not locked in, but they locked in playoff. They just stopped giving a crap. This is an impact team. We have this conversation every year. Every split, every time he locks in playoffs, he just doesn't give a crap. Sometimes he doesn't give a crap before he locks in. I could not care less. Like Vikla has been phoning it in, and if he looks bad in his first series, then yeah, okay, their stock drops a lot. But until then, like this team has way more than enough firepower, and they lost to EG and Liquid, which are like EG is a legitimate like game, and then Liquid, well, EG the week before. And Liquid is like, who knows, right? Like sometimes they just look disgustingly good, and sometimes they look terrible, and they just flip badly. I think we don't need to worry about FlyQuest much. I will be a little concerned about Eyla not looking, looking as good as he did last year when he subbed in for Liquid. I'm really just surprised that he can't even be up to Winsome's level. So either Winsome leveled up a lot, or maybe just Winsome's a better match. But with the way their whole team's playing, like I'm not as concerned. Yes, something that a lot of people don't understand is like, yes, you can't force an individual player to make mistakes, right? Like sometimes when Bjergsen misses Tibbers, right, and then Double dies right after, like Double have made that mistake, but technically the team playing bad means that you have more skill checks that can force you to make terrible looking mistakes. So sometimes when you're losing, you're just gonna look bad, right? Same with Spica. He doesn't look like he looks way better now than last year because his team's better. So long story short, FlyQuest should win the split. This is just them phoning it in because top 2 doesn't make a huge difference as long as you're first or second.
I mean, I'm definitely with Kevin. We have the same argument about impact every single year. He's not playing.
I don't doubt him anymore. I'm on the train. I'm a believer.
It's we've seen it every year, every split he's played. He does the same thing. I'm not worried.
Yeah, I'm gonna voice some concerns. I think, uh, yeah, they're probably phoning it in. I mean, that's a realistic take, but there's a certain level of like phoning it in, and because you're, I don't know, relaxing, you're just preparing for playoffs, or like, I don't know how much, like, how much are they still like improving though, right? Like, because when you're phoning it in because you're the best team, like, yeah, you can lose some games and you can look bad here and there, but like, are you still improving behind the scenes? And when I look at their drafts, they're like, their loss against Team Liquid, they're playing a 13.1 draft. Like, this is Kasante, Sejuani, Silas, Lucian, Nami. All 5 of these champions have been nerfed since 13.4. And you look at Team Liquid's entire draft, Cho'Gath, Lee Sin, Ari, Aphelios, Thresh, all 5 of those champions got buffed since 13.1. So FlyQuest is playing like a super ancient draft in this new meta. And, what does that mean? I don't really know. Are they phoning in a draft? Are they hiding strats? Do they not care? But like, you don't need to do this draft. You don't need to hide stuff because 13.5 is different all over again. So I don't know what that means, but to me, it's like on surface level, it is worrying. It makes me think that maybe they don't know what the meta is, or maybe they think they can get away with playing the same stuff that's been nerfed. Um, who's to say? Yeah, Impact. You know what? Phones it in. Whatever. He comes up in playoffs. Spica, probably. You know what? I have faith in him to show up in playoffs. Vikla is a question mark. Eyla is a big question mark.
Mm-hmm.
It's very real. He cannot play Enchantress supports on the same level as Winsome, but I mean his Recon and Thresh are super good, so we'll see how that affects their draft in playoffs. Prince is kind of scary for me. He was actually straight up running it down against Team Liquid. He had a very, very bad game. This is a guy that does not have bad games. This is a guy that if he makes a mistake in solo queue, he turns off his cam and says sorry to his chat. I have to focus on my solo queue game.
Yeah.
Okay, so we can extrapolate. We can make conjectures. I'm gonna say Prince is not the guy that wants to lose any game. Prince is not the guy that wants to play badly at any point at any time of his career. I would not be surprised if there's an inkling of him that's tilted. The rest of his team is phoning it in. And my biggest complaint with this team was never about skill. It was about a bunch of big name players not agreeing on how to play the game, and that's how they lose. Because clearly, I mean, they have the highest skill ceiling of any team in the LCS right now. But their problem was never going to be about skill. It was going to be about meta. It was going to be about if they could work together and be on the same page. And I think that this could be a precursor to that. And I've been a doubter of FlyQuest for some reason. I don't know, this whole split. So I think I'm just gonna keep on that train. Yeah.
I think the only thing that I would say is that because Vikla is a big reason why the whole running it down thing. The only reason why I would think maybe it would be a little different with Prince is that apparently I think Vikla was the reason why Prince came here. I think they might be friends. And so, yeah, I'm sure he doesn't want to lose, but there might be a little bit of like threshold there since Vikla is his buddy. But that's not to say that he couldn't be tilted or getting frustrated, especially like, look, I wouldn't underestimate the subbing in of supports. You build the chemistry with a support, no matter who the name is. If you've just been playing better and kind of accustomed to, the support that you've had, and then you bring in somebody else and it's not working. I don't know. Like, maybe Alistair, you could speak on this. But as an ADC player, I think I would feel a little, I don't know. I would feel a little tilted. Like I
It could
would
be
feel a little
frustrating,
frustrated. Yeah, if
Yeah.
like we had a good thing going. I don't know if it was his decision or if he had a say on who he wanted to play with. But what do you think on that, Alistair? Like, if is changing supports, would that be a big difference maker for you as an ADC?
Um, I mean, I can only really speculate so much because I've never actually had to do this.
Mm-hmm.
At least in the middle of a split.
Yeah.
But personally, like, if I'm, at least in my opinion, if I'm running with someone and we're just winning, like, very hard, I don't see why you would bother changing things.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, the plan was to have Eyla originally, but things change, shit happens. I think you just run with what you have until there's a reason to change it. It would be the same thing as like if you did it with a jungler and like a jungler in mid.
Acadian, Greg.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just don't see the point in changing things when it's already working for you.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's what I mean. Like, I don't know how much that messed up his rhythm, his chemistry, and like I said, maybe Ayla is better with engaged supports. Like we've seen it with Thresh.
Oh, he's definitely better.
And
It's not
Rakan.
even
But
close. Yeah.
if that's not the champs that you're trying to pick or whatever, then I don't know. Maybe it's not such a good idea to change. But all of that to say is that I don't know. Like, I'm still at a coin flip. You guys, I know, have kind of made decisions as far as like Kevin, Alistair. You think they're going to win it first. Mitchell, you have doubts. I don't know. I'm kind of like I just don't know what to expect. So I'll leave my
really
opinion
do.
at that.
Yeah,
I'll
really
leave my opinion at that. But
One thing I actually do want to say though, for like just a bit of a continuation of my point, even though like I in my opinion they shouldn't have changed in the first place, I don't think they should change now.
Yeah,
Yeah,
don't
like
go
change
back
back,
again.
Yeah, don't,
I
don't go
agree.
back again.
right.
Yeah. I agree with that. I think like you just take Lushinami and Zeri Lulu and stuff and just like do like I don't know, Zeri Annie or something. Just give Ayla a go button because it does
Yeah.
really feel like when Ayla's just chilling on Lulu and Nami, like he just gets caught and dies because he wants to like get in there. Like I see him, he wants to auto attack and get an area proc and he just dies for it.
Mhm.
So just
Core
like
JJ.
yeah, I mean it's exactly it, right? Like Ayla was under Core J for a long ass time on Team Liquid. They have
True.
the same tendencies. So
Yeah.
like I think FlyQuest like they have some easy things that they can do to just make sure that they guarantee like at least reaching far in playoffs. But I don't know if they're gonna do it, right? I don't know how like I don't know if like the conclusions that we're making on this podcast are the same that they're making.
Right.
What's obvious to them, what's obvious to us, because like I don't know. If I'm Prince and I come from Korea and I'm this god of NA and I actually lose games to some random ass like North Americans, I'm fucking pissed. I'm the
Yeah.
best player in this whole goddamn region. I'm smurfing. Why am I losing? I should not lose. So, I mean, that's just my take on it, but let's just hope Prince can win a title. I mean, for his sake, because if he doesn't win a title, does he just leave? I don't want him to leave.
Yeah, I don't want him to leave. I kind of want him to at least do really well. So get
Yeah,
him enough
'cause
to stay here.
think of how many pro players that have become an absolute god in NA. They don't win a title, they get tilted off the face of the earth, never come back. Like it just happens all the time. I don't want that
Yeah.
to happen to Prince. He's so good. So
Exactly. Okay. Well. So I don't know the percentages or anything. Maybe you guys know, but is Golden Guardians, are they cleared a playoff spot for sure? They're in fourth
not
right
for
now.
sure. If they go
Okay.
0-3, I think they're out.
Okay, because their schedule isn't. It's not the easiest. They have to play CLG.
They play Dig. They're fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right.
If they
So
win against Dig, they're in. Pretty sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they have CLG, FlyQuest, and Dig. So as long as they beat Dig, they should be fine. Which hopefully that should
And
be.
if they can't bring.
Yeah.
If they can't beat Dig, then I mean, who cares?
Exactly.
If you
mean-
can't beat Dig, you just shouldn't be in
Uh,
playoffs.
This is just Dig's comfort zone, guys. This is like exactly where Dig wants to be. They're
Right,
gonna
Dig is
it's
like-
it's just like NA at Worlds, bro. They're mathematically eliminated. Now they play like gods.
Yeah, that's
they're
what I
gonna
was gonna say.
play so well. Dig is
Yeah.
gonna like Golden
They're gonna go
Guardians. Like,
3-0.
like
Terrible.
honestly, Golden Guardians, they should look at their match schedule and like they're thinking like, all right, what should we prepare? Right, who should we prep for? Prep for Dig. Honestly,
Yeah. Don't
Dig.
sleep.
they're gonna cheese
Unironically,
you.
yes.
Yeah, they're gonna cheese you. They're gonna
Yeah.
cheese you. They're gonna try their best to upset you, because like Dig is gonna be like, you're supposed to be shit like us. You shouldn't go to playoffs. You're supposed to be a bad org.
Yeah.
Don't let it happen, GGS.
Oh
Don't let it happen.
Well, with that said, though, is there anything that because they went 1-1, they lost to 100 Thieves, which we talked about earlier, and then they beat TSM. Are there any things that you saw where it might be worrisome for them? What are your thoughts on them moving forward? I mean, I know we're joking with the Dig thing. It could have Dig could just throw out all these predictions and make everybody's bracket predictions just a mess. But what are your thoughts on Golden Guardians? Like, what do they need to focus on?
I think they need to focus on playing to their mid jungle again as they were doing before. They feel like once they lost once, they just lost confidence. Like they mentioned in the dive, I was gonna say the Allen podcast. In the dive, they were on it.
Yes.
That like once they started winning, like everything just became easier. Like they were confident, they were like they knew what to do, they were on the same page, and they weren't doubting themselves, right? So what I got from that was like, oh, great, momentum's strong and all, which makes sense, especially for these guys who haven't, been used to winning in a while in a row. But the opposite could be true. Like once you lose to Liquid, for example, you're just like, oh shit,
Hmm.
oh boy, here all the doubt comes back, all the indecision. So, I mean, they're basically qualified. So at the same time, like they could be in the same boat, but I think the difference is they're not an impact team per se, right? They aren't used to winning. This org doesn't have the DNA of a winning org. So can they make sure to keep everyone on the same page to make
Hmm.
sure everyone's focused and that doesn't lose confidence? I don't know. That being said, they'll be fine through this weekend. I think all they have to make sure is to like focus on practicing the right way and beat Dig. Don't
Beat
skimp
Dig,
on
yes.
beating Dig because a lot of
Yep.
times you get upset by these bad teams because you don't put any of your prep time for them. But like this week, like as long as you beat them, who cares? Like you will qualify, and like that's what matters. I guess technically, who cares is also like who you get seeded into, but it's because the standings are so close. It's kind of a toss up.
Yeah, you really don't know who you're gonna
You
play
can't
against
plan
in
for it
playoffs.
really.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think my main worry about Golden Guardians is it feels like they haven't found their personal niche, like the thing they're really good at. Because you look at a lot of their games, it feels like they have very different play styles, varying from game to game. Like this week alone, they played Elise Jace comp, and then they had also played a like Yon Sejuani comp. Like these are very different play styles, and I feel like it's kind of biting them a bit. So I feel like they just kind of need to lock something down. Because I mean, realistically, I don't think anyone expects them to win the whole thing. So they should, in my opinion, just start prepping for next split if they're not going to make roster changes and figure out what they want to be really good at. Because you don't have to be the best at the meta. I'll always reference RNG with Uzi is even if it was topside meta, they were still playing through Uzi and they made it to like world semis doing it when they're quote unquote playing the game wrong at the time. So they need to find what they're good at and stay consistent with it, in my opinion.
Yeah. I mean, RNG won MSI with that strategy. It was like 2018 topside meta, and they just played through bot and won MSI that year. So, I mean, that's
Exactly.
totally true. I think, yeah, Golden Guardians, they just need to, I don't know, drop the Sejuani. Like, I think the Sejuani meta is just kind of over. Like, if you want to play Sejuani, you need a really cracked mid laner and top laner um, to make use of the Sejuani. But they don't have a top laner, they just have a mid laner. And Sejuani is just not enough when you're playing against Lee Sin, Viego, Elise. It's just, you want some more early game, I think. And you want to give gold in the hands of River and Gory, I guess, too. Gory he's definitely fallen off a lot. I think he was playing so well for the majority of the split, but this split or this past couple of weeks have been pretty rough for Gory. I feel like he just doesn't have much of an impact like on the game, where it did feel like he was like dictating the game a lot with River. But um I'm not really sure what to say about the bot lane either. Who he's just always opting for enchanters. There's
Yeah.
not really any engage I'm seeing from him, which I guess it can be fine, but I expect this meta to, especially in playoffs, to go very heavily towards jungle focused, roaming melee supports, and just getting the jungler ahead and stuff like that, and getting mid jungle ahead. So we'll see if Golden Guardians can adapt or if they just find their own niche, keep with the enchanter supports, and but I think you just put River on a carry. Like, let's just carry jungle meta. He's good at it. His Elise was pretty good. So just, yeah, do that. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, Golden Guardians struggling to find their footing in the meta. It's definitely their story.
Yeah, definitely. I think the jungle is going to be a big question for Golden Guardians. They need to get that synergy going again,
Oh
because
yeah.
that is a pretty good mid jungle duo there in Gory and River. So let's move on. So there's only a few other teams worth mentioning. I know there's a three-way tie between CLG, 100 Thieves, and TSM. We already kind of talked about that. But is there anything that you guys wanted to mention about any of those teams? If not, we'll go to Team Liquid and then we'll finalize who we think will make playoffs. No. Okay, so what about Team Liquid, Kevin? I know it's probably impossible for them to make playoffs, but I wanted to let you have possibly some final words for the rest
Give
of the
us the
split.
hopium.
Give us the hopium, man.
Give it to
Yeah.
me.
So the hopium is that Core JJ looked really good on Thresh. He looked like he was just smurfing on FlyQuest bot lane. Like
True.
if this was somehow FlyQuest trying at least their bot lane, that was disgusting. The gap that like the jungle AD carry support did on them, that was disgusting. And so I'd like to believe, but honestly, the problem is that like 90% or 70% of the split was just played on a different patch where you couldn't play characters like this. Like Thresh is so good right now on 13.5. It's like it won't matter in time. So if they can win this weekend, it's actually not the hardest run. If you look at Liquid's power level, like if they were playing consistently, it's not a hard run actually. Like it's harder than the other guys, but realistically, their only hard matchup is what? It's against EG or something.
Yeah.
So I think it's doable. The thing is that they can beat FlyQuest one day and then get destroyed by like TSM or whoever the next day. So unfortunately, they can't string together more 3 wins in a row. So I think that they're gonna go 2-1, look really good, and then lose to someone in a terrible fashion, and we're gonna be very blue balled. Even if they go 3-0, they're not guaranteed anything. They're not even guaranteed a tiebreaker. So it's pretty sad.
I mean, I think it's very likely we see a tiebreaker for TL to get in, because all it really requires is two of either CLG, TSM, or 100 Thieves to go 1 and 2, and I don't really think that's very unlikely, just judging by their schedules. So TL going to 1, I mean I think that's more unlikely, but I think it's definitely possible, especially because one of their games is Dignitas. So I think there is a chance where, or like I think there is a fairly realistic world where Team Liquid does actually make playoffs, but
There you
we
go.
will
Hopium,
obviously
Kevin.
have to see.
Yep. I mean, there's worse chances. We've seen other like worse teams make into playoffs with worse odds. So I think it's definitely in the realm of possibility. I just have no hope in their consistency. Like that's the real problem with this team. Like the odds are there, the path is there, but are they going to be consistent enough? Like this team is going to lose to Dig in like the first day and then beat CLG and EG in the next few days and then lose the tiebreaker, right? It's going to be like the most opposite backwards way that they don't make it into playoffs, or they do. So yeah, Kevin is coming in and out. He's tilted from all of the Team Liquid talk.
He hated
Not
you guys. Scared him away because we were talking all this Team Liquid hate, and there
All right,
he's
he's
back.
back.
He's
My
back.
mic just literally said disconnected. And I was like, oh great, my mic
Well,
is rebelling.
Dude, now your mic is loud. Actually, that's
Yeah, your mic is
strange.
loud as.
I didn't do anything though.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's crazy. Maybe it wasn't plugged in all the way. I don't know.
Maybe.
I don't know.
Anyways.
I don't even know if that's how it works. But yeah.
Quickly to just comment on Team Liquid and their play style. I mean, it's finally happened. It took like what, a year. Summon is playing tanks. Like his champion pool has now been Sion, Cho'Gath, and Gragas for the last few weeks. It's finally there. No more
Yeah.
Jace, Gnar, Renekton, like bullshit. Fiora, like he's just playing tanks, which is great. And then you know what? Pioshik, he's not playing Sejuani and Vi and Maokai. He's playing Wukong and Elise and Lee Sin. And I'm sure we'll get a Viego. I'm sure we're gonna get a Kindred if he makes it into playoffs. So Pioshik looks like he can actually play the game. He looks like a real human being. He's world championship caliber. I don't know, whatever they say on the cast, but Pioshik is legit when he's on these carry champions, and Summit he's fine enough when he's playing tanks. I mean, he still can't avoid ganks, but he is more consistent, right? If you die a bunch in lane to a bunch of ganks, your CC is still the same. So that's good for them. I think that they are solidifying a play style that makes a lot of sense for this meta and for this team. And yeah, they'll just have to execute. Right, but that's the formula, right? Tank top, engage support, carry jungle. Hope your rookies don't shit themselves, right? Just Harry, Yeon, just chill. Just like be
Yeah.
fine.
There it is.
And then I think they could go 2-1, they could win a tiebreaker, and they could make it. But I mean, I just listed like 5 or 6 things that have to line up for them, right? So that's what they're looking at.
Yeah, I think. I mean, I agree with Alistair. I don't think it's that far of a reach that they have a tiebreaker. I think. Well, we'll transition to this because I think the last thing we need to do is say who we think is going to make those final playoff spots. I think we all know that top 3 is locked in. But
who's number 1 though? We got a list 1 through 6.
Okay, let's do that.
1 through 6,
let's do that.
You know?
I'll go last since
Okay.
since I can. So Kevin, I would like to pass on that first responsibility on to you. Who do you think? Let's get your order with the final regular season standings.
Final regular season standings. I have Cloud9 in first place, FlyQuest in second. These are easy calls. EG third. Here, I mean, Golden Guardians by default should get fourth because there's such a big gap. But the last two are the hard parts, right? I personally have current 100 Thieves as the sixth place, and then sorry, I should have done this the other way. And then I have current CLG as the fifth.
Okay.
Okay.
Go
CL is not making it in your hopium, huh?
I just have to be realistic. If
gotta
I
be
want
real,
to not
man.
be able to string together 2 wins in a row, like what am I supposed to say?
Yeah.
It's hard.
They've only strung together 2 wins in a row on week 2 or week 1 and 2, I guess.
Yeah.
Never on the same weekend, actually. It just I can't keep watching it and be like, yeah, you know, this is gonna work. This is good.
Rip Liquid, Rick TSM.
If this meta was like 2 patches longer, they definitely would get it. But it's unfortunate. They just need to be better in more than one meta.
Yeah, that's true.
All right, I'm gonna make mine a little spicy for fun.
Oh gosh,
All right.
here we go.
All right, we're going FlyQuest 1, Cloud9 2. Then EG Golden Guardians. 3, 4, and then 100 Thieves TL.
100 Thieves
Ooh.
TL. Oh my god, that is almost what mine is, actually. Mine's just C9 FlyQuest flipped. That's what mine is. So mine's C9 Fly, EG Golden Guardians, and then it's 100 Thieves TL. Yeah, I think they're going to clutch it. Because, you know, CLG and TSM have been more consistent throughout the year. And, you know, I should say they're better teams, right? But the meta is so different. And recency bias, when there's a patch like this, is more relevant, I think. And I don't know, dude. CLG and TSM, they just don't have that magic for me. Like CLG used to have that magic for me. They've really lost it. I don't feel the magic anymore for them. TSM has never had the magic. 100 Thieves and TL, they can int their brains off, but you'll just have that one game where it's like, I feel the magic. I feel like when the pressure hits and you have to really dig deep to go beyond what you currently are, those are the guys that are going to do it, right? Doublelift and Bjergsen, Closer, and CoreJJ and Pioshik, right? These are the kind of guys that, like, you can shit on them all you want, but when the pressure hits, they'll rise more so than others. And, I mean, I really don't see it for TSM and CLG. I mean, I would have seen it last year, but, like, this year it's just not been enough for me. So, yeah, that's it. 100 Thieves and TL are making for me. And I have an all-in. I saved it for the end.
Ooh, yes.
I have an all-in. This is going to be the most egregious thing that I will say. It's going to be like, Mitchell, you're ridiculous.
Yes,
And I'm
That's
like,
saying
yes.
something.
I know.
This is the most ridiculous. That's saying something, Mitch.
Okay, well, maybe I'm being ridiculous by saying this is the ridiculous. I don't know. Remember all the ridiculous things I've said.
I was gonna say, bro, maybe I need to make an all-in that this won't be the most ridiculous thing.
Maybe it probably won't actually, because it's not that
more
ridiculous.
than GGS wins the split, which is the only all-in that's currently on.
Oh, okay, that is actually probably more ridiculous than mine is.
Okay. Let's hear it then.
All right. Yeah, Doublelift's winning the split. Yeah. I'm calling it. Doublelift's winning the split.
That's more
That's
ridiculous.
more
than GGS.
ridiculous than GGS.
Yes. Okay, maybe it
that's
is more
definitely
ridiculous.
more.
They're like tied for 7-6 right now.
I know, dude. The amount of times I've seen Doublelift be in this situation and make it to finals, right? Okay, so if he makes it to finals and he doesn't win the split, you know what? I'm gonna take that as a win. It won't be my all-in because it's more hype to say he wins the split.
Sure.
I'm gonna take that as a dub. He goes to MSI. Like, I take that. But like,
Yeah.
this is just what Doublelift does, dude. Like, I secretly both hate and love that he's back, because it is not good for the development of NA for like reaching new international heights. But for the hypeness of just the LCS narrative, this guy is the main character. I want him to win. I want Doublelift to be first place, to look like garbage all year long, streak his way to a championship, go to MSI, and fucking go 06, man. I don't care, dude. It's so hype. Like, I'm so down for it.
What you want is you want the start to burn out in like a flash of light, you know, like the last thing. You don't care about the sustainability.
I just want him to win, because it's like, yes, Doublelift is just the best NA player ever. And like, you know what? We'll never win Worlds. We'll never win MSI. But he's the best NA player, and he shits on everybody else in NA. I'm down for that narrative. I think it's hype. I'm a Doublelift fanboy. I don't care.
All right,
If it's 100 Thieves, Golden Guardians in the finals, I'm gonna laugh my ass off.
It's gonna be so crazy, dude. We go to MSI, we smurf. I don't care.
Now,
I will be there for it in
That's
person.
true. Yeah.
Yo,
well,
yo,
I'm gonna
go to
one up
Doublelift and
it.
tell him.
I'm gonna
Yeah,
one up.
oh.
I'm gonna one up this narrative. No, I'm agreeing with you
Okay.
first of all, but I'm gonna add a little more flavor to it. In the finals, it's gonna be 100 Thieves versus FlyQuest.
Oh.
Doublelift against Prince,
Oh.
and Doublelift beats Prince, and Prince is like, my hero just beat
Oh
me.
my
Oh
God.
my gosh.
He would
It's
literally
gonna be
pee himself on stage.
Dude, that
Yeah.
would be that would be nuts, man.
The whole interview is like, how does it feel to lose to your hero? And it's just awkward.
He's like, worth.
It's worth. It's worth.
He turns the
Dude.
impact and is like, shouldn't have left Doublelift. How dare you?
I really like that. Yeah.
Oh, dude, and Spica would be there too. Spica chose to not be on 100 Thieves because he didn't want to be with Bjergsen and Doublelift, the freaking boomers from the 9-man sleep, and he loses to them. I just want Spica to pick Lilia against them. That would be
Yes.
amazing. That would be
I
great.
guarantee you he hovers it. He hovers it.
He's definitely hovering it. I mean, they're gonna do some Lucian Victor hovers. You know, like I'm so down for this.
Well, I
And
really
you know
like
what?
it.
Like, let's be real. Like, I want Doublelift to do something internationally. Like, he has one thing in his like long ass 10-year career. He made it to one finals MSI and got 3-0'd in the fastest MSI finals. Why don't we just do one more thing, right? Maybe make another MSI finals. Maybe make it out of groups at Worlds. I don't care. Doublelift, just do one more thing. You're my favorite LCS player. You know,
There
what
you
can I
go.
say? So
You thought Prince was his biggest fan. It's actually Mitchell.
it's actually yeah. It's actually me.
Hey man,
It's
I'm
actually
with
me.
that. I support it because I told you I support boomers, and so that fits my narrative. So I'm gonna go with it. But as far as like my ranking, it's exactly like yours, Mitchell.
Yeah.
So because here's why. I do think CLG's got a pretty tough schedule. They got to play
Yeah, they
Golden
do.
Guardians,
They do.
Team Liquid, and FlyQuest. I actually think Team Liquid. Like what you said, Kevin, you said that don't underestimate them. I think they're going to come clutch, especially with this meta change with Piosik and all that good stuff, and Summit finally understanding his role. I know as a fan, it's hard for you to envision that, but I'm envisioning it for you. And they're going to win the tiebreaker, and they're going to sneak that last spot. So that's all I'm saying.
I wish I had that kind of hopium, man. I really do.
You're the only one that didn't predict TL making it to playoffs, by the way.
Yeah, because they have like 23% of scenarios is them even getting a tiebreaker.
Oh, that's
like
true. That's true.
Hey, you only need a
but
chance.
then you're putting your faith in CLG, so you know what's the
maybe I
pure
should.
sin here?
I mean, okay, TSM is way more likely than CLG to like make it if we look at the schedule. But I'm just like, oh, do I have to bet on TSM to make it now?
Yeah, I can't. I don't want to. I don't want to ever bet on TSM. I want to bet on CLG. I just can't. You know, like there's a big difference between those teams in my head.
see, for me, for a while, I've been on the when are we just gonna say TL's bad? But that's always been when they've been competing for the top spot. They aren't. I honestly do think they can and likely will make playoffs, just barely.
Damn, we all believe more than you, Kevin.
I mean,
wow.
I'd love to anti-curse them. You know, I'd love to be wrong, but I don't believe it.
Give tiebreaker. Give tiebreaker. Give energy.
Dude, they're gonna lock in solo on Renekton, or not solo, Summit on Renekton, and then they're just gonna.
If we see that,
if we see Summit Renekton,
are we ignoring that game 2 of last weekend? Summit literally was one of the camps. He just died at level 2 again.
Yeah, he did. But he's playing Cho'Gath, so it doesn't matter. It's fine.
We call it a full clear and we move on.
Yeah, full clear.
I literally called it the weekend before, and I was right, and I was in so much pain.
Yeah. Grump spawned a top lane for some reason. That's fine, guys.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. I think I'm down for it to happen, but yeah, if Summit doesn't
Croc camp.
If Summit doesn't pick a tank, then I'm saying it's
oh,
over.
it's so doomed.
Yeah, my prediction that's done. It's all predicated on Summit picking just a tank. So it doesn't matter
and
too much
if
if he
Piosik
dies.
locks in Sejuani, I'm like, oh, he's checking out at 25 minutes. He's gonna flash in, ulti, miss everything, and be like, oh, are we still playing? I thought this was a scrim game. I thought we FF'd already. Like, that's Piosik in a nutshell. Just put him on freaking carries, please.
There you go. All right.
But yeah.
Well, do you guys got any final thoughts before we wrap it up?
I'm just, you know what? I'm so happy. Okay, I was complaining about the patches for so long, and I've decided to stop complaining and just dive into the chaos. The meta is so different, and it is way more interesting than it was before. So even though I think that the patches are absolutely wild and crazy, you know what? Where we've ended up, it could be a lot worse. It's actually not bad. We have a lot of really interesting champions that you can pick in the game right now. So
Yeah.
you know what? Screw it. I'm down
Yeah.
for it. Yeah.
And I know we didn't get to really talk about meta that much just because, this episode we wanted to talk about all the LCS stuff. So be on the lookout. We may have a separate patch notes rundown in general, or we might incorporate it in our next episode. But we're going to try to discuss some of that too, because it is a lot of game-changing stuff. Freak has lost his mind and he's drunk with power,
He is
changing
so drunk.
everything. So
Dude, he's so bald. It's crazy.
he's so crazy. But yeah, that's gonna wrap it up for us. But thanks again to my awesome co-hosts Kevin, Mitchell, Alistair for always sharing their wise thoughts. But until next time, enjoy your climb on the Rift. Try not to be too toxic, and we'll see you all on the next episode. Peace.